A lot. I said, "You want to see my?" I did what Dawn did to me. I said, "You want to see it?" And I showed her the thing, and she's like, I said, "That's exactly what Dawn did to me, and I had a worse reaction than you." So yeah. Do we want to sing a song or pray and go right into our Bible study since we're 12 minutes behind already? Okay. All right. How is everybody's week? How's your Christmas shopping going? Done? Yeah? What stores you go to? Five Below. I know. I know what Five Below is. That's impressive. It's a dirty gift, man. Pretty much, we're done with Josh and Alyssa. We're not really buying Christmas gifts this year. We, I have too much bills right now. Too much bills. I'm remodeling my bathroom, and I had to pay $586 on my car the other day, and so life is life. So I told Carla, we're not buying nobody nothing. We can't afford it right now. So that's great. Fabulous. All right. I did not have time to run off your Bible study, so this is what you're getting. Okay. Um, you guys ready to pray? Amen. Father in heaven, we thank you for this time that we have to spend together this evening studying your word. We ask that you would bless it and help us to learn. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, this is another follow-up for our Bible prophecy seminar. And okay, number 34, this is actually like number 25 in our series. When Jesus was crucified, the hopes of the disciples were dashed to pieces. However, after he resurrected and ascended to heaven, their disappointment was turned into joy. God has a way to bring joy out of disappointment, and Revelation chapter 10 is a illustration of that. Okay, Revelation chapter 10 and verse 1. Revelation 10 and verse 1. That water's good. Something going on with my left ear. Okay, Revelation 10 and verse 1. Am I on? Can you guys hear me? You can hear me? Okay. I still saw another mighty angel coming down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was on his head, and his face was like the sun, and his feet were like pillars of fire. So envision, what did Jesus see? What did John see coming down from heaven? Another mighty angel. He sees an angel coming down from heaven with a powerful message. What was in the hand of the angel? Verse 2. Who would like to read? Okay, so you guys are familiar with this. You know the thing, right? Do you know the story? Okay, verse 2, somebody.
He had a little book open in his hand, and he set his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the land.
My glasses are so scratched I can't tell if they're dirty or not. Huh? Josh broke my glasses this week, so I had to go get an eye appointment and get new glasses, and they tried to tell me I needed bifocals. I'm like, no, I'm putting this off. No, we're not doing that yet. And the doctor said, okay, it's probably not that big of a deal. So, nope, not yet. Okay, verse 2. Did we read it? Okay, so he had a little book that was open, which assumes that at one point this book was what? Closed. And he put his right foot where? And the left foot where? On the earth. Okay, so this book is open, and he has his foot on the land and on the sea, and the two elements that make up planet Earth, land and sea, the book is open. And so this message is to go to the entire world, okay? Whatever the content of this book is, whatever it is, it's to go to the whole world. Yep. You're getting ahead, yes. You're an overachiever, I know, we celebrate that. Okay, is there any portion of the book of Daniel that was sealed? And the answer is simply yes. Daniel 12, and I'm turning there for you right now. And you should be able to read that, right? But you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. Okay, so many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. And a lot of people have taken this to mean that there will be an age of scientific discovery, and that is true. But what the context is talking about is that in the original, people would be leafing back and forth in the scriptures, and biblical knowledge shall increase. Okay? Oh, good. That popped my ear. Good. Okay, so
Say that again, will you please?
in Daniel 12, verse 4... biblical knowledge would increase about the prophecies, because prophecies are best understood from the perspective of fulfilled. Once the prophecy is fulfilled, you look back and you can see, that's how the Bible said that was going to happen, and it did. Well, yeah. It's basically leafing back and forth, like flipping pages or unrolling scrolls. Yeah, basically like that. Okay, so is there any portion of the book of Daniel that once was sealed? Yes, it is. Because in Daniel 8, it said the vision was for many days in the future. Okay, and then in Daniel 12, it says, shut up the words, seal the book until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. So, according to Daniel 12, the time of the end begins around 1798. And then 1844. Okay? I've heard arguments for both of them, that the time of the end began in 1798. I kind of think that one's right. But this means that the little book that is in the hand of the angel is probably the unsealing of... There's only one prophecy in the book of Daniel that was sealed up to the time of the end. And now, since this book is open in the hand of the angel of Revelation 10, it's probably the book that was sealed at one point because if the book is open, it once was closed, and now when we saw from Daniel 12 that prophecy was sealed, and now the angel has the book open, that's probably this prophecy that is now ready to be studied and understood. It's basically the part, yeah, that talked about the time of the end. If you look at one, at the time Michael shall stand up, the great prince who stands watch over the sons of your people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that time. And at that time your people shall be delivered, everyone who is found written in the book. And many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. And that's the first resurrection. Some to everlasting life, some to shame and everlasting contempt. That's the second resurrection. And then verse 3, those who are wise shall shine like the brightness of the firmament, and those who turn many to righteousness like the stars forever. But you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. Right. So there was a time prophecy in the book of Daniel that Daniel himself did not understand. Which time prophecy was that? That was the 2300 days. Okay? He fainted in 8 verse 27, and then the angel Gabriel came back and in chapter 9 and gave him the rest of the explanation of that time period, and he still didn't even get it then. Okay? So Daniel died, and he didn't even understand the whole vision, because and the angel basically says, he said it 3 different times, that the vision is for the time of the end. Okay? And so then, but you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book to the time of the end. You want to see a couple of those statements in Daniel 8? I think there's one in verse 19. Okay, so Daniel 8:17. So he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid and fell on my face. But he said to me, understand, O son of man, that the vision refers to what? So that phrase, the time of the end, in chapter 12, connects to the time of the end phrase in chapter 8. And then in 8:19, and he said, look, I'm making known to you what shall happen in the latter time of the indignation, for at the appointed time the end shall be. Okay? And then there's another one in here. That's it. And seal up the vision, for it refers to many days in the future. So the vision, the part of the book that was sealed was the longest time prophecy of Daniel 8:14. Make sense? You got that? Okay, that was a very good question. That added a lot to the discussion, Valerie. Thank you for that. That was good. Huh? Valerie, thank you. Okay. So what does the angel say that there should be? Revelation chapter 10 and verse 5 and 6. Who wants to read that? Okay, so there should be time no longer. So the angel in Revelation 10 has a little book which now is open. Daniel is a little book, and it was sealed or closed up until the time of the end. And the sense of, it's not like when you try to unroll the scroll, it wouldn't open because it was sealed. It means the prophecy wasn't for Daniel's day, therefore he couldn't understand it. And it says it 3 times there, and you saw those 3 times that time prophecy is for when? Time of the end, right? So the time prophecies of Daniel would be sealed till the time of the end. Daniel was sealed up in this sense. I just said exactly what I said. Okay, the angel clearly said in verse 6 that delay or time, depending on your Bible version, shall be no longer. That means we should ask another question. What is the longest time prophecy in the book of Daniel? And we already know that it's the 2,300 days. And Jansen? Okay. Dave is on a roll tonight. So you see, there's your 457 BC. Then you move forward 483 years. You come to AD 27 when Jesus was anointed at the baptism. Then he was cut off from many in the middle of the week. And then Stephen was stoned. Saul became Paul. Gospel goes to the Gentiles in 34 AD. Then in 1810 years later, and you know why 1810 is there? 2,300 minus 490 is 1810. Okay, so from 34 AD, you move forward 1810 years into the future, and you come to the fall of 1844. Okay, and a lot of heavy hitter Bible scholars believe that, according to the Karaite Jews, they had the Day of Atonement that year was October 22nd, 1844. So that was the exact day they believe that Jesus began the second phase of his ministry in the most holy place. Yep.
I was always led to believe that when it says in verse 6 where it says, and there will be time no longer, because that 1844 is the end of the last time prophecy, so there is no more time.
There is no more time prophecies with a date past 1844. That's what that means. The delay is chronos. The Greek word is chronos. Delay or time. Time no longer, delay no longer. It just depends on what version of the Bible you have. And the word for delay is chronos. There shall be time no longer. And so when William Miller started to study, and he was connecting the second coming to the sanctuary, of course he believed that the second coming, or the second coming, was going to be when he cleansed the earth, and the earth would be cleansed with fire, because he thought the earth was the sanctuary, right? And he got the date right, but the event was wrong. Okay? Jesus began the second phase of his ministry, moving from holy to most holy, on October 22nd, 1844. So remember that Jesus doesn't have a two-compartment ministry. He has a two-phase ministry. Because when he went to heaven in 31 AD, he went into the most holy place to inaugurate it, so that when the Day of Atonement would come around, that part of the temple could be used, which is the same thing in number 7. I'm working on a really good presentation on this topic, what I'm telling you about, because in Daniel 9 verse 24 it says, there's a couple on a list of things. If you go to Daniel 9 verse 24, I'm flipping right to it for you. 70 weeks are determined for your people, for your holy city, to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to what? That is in the 490-day section. That is not in the 1840 or 1844 Daniel 8:14 section. Those things happen in 31 AD. Okay? Those things would happen during the 490-day section. So Jesus anointed the most holy, and I'm just going to give you like a 2-minute little blurb of this, and then I'm going to give you the big thing next week. I was working on it today. I was working on my bathroom as well, and I couldn't get both done. But if you look at Hebrews 10, go with me here. Hebrews 10, 19 and 20. Your evangelical brothers will tell you, and Desmond Ford, y'all know Desmond Ford? He said that according to it's Hebrews 6, 19 and 20, and Hebrews 10, 19 and 20, Jesus went into the most holy place in 31 AD, and there's your judgment. So 1844 is a non-issue. Ellen White is a false prophet, and the Seventh-day Adventist Church is doctrinally incorrect. And a lot of our seminarians and pastors and a lot of other church members left our church in 1980 because of what Desmond Ford taught. Yep.
One of the things I was taught in one of these seminars was the anointing of the Most Holy was also Jesus when Mary broke the alabaster box and anointed him with the oil.
Yeah, so the most holy place wasn't anointed, it was Jesus that was the anointed.
Right.
Because since he was the most holy. Yeah. So the problem with that is if you look at Hebrews 10, verse 20. Let me go back up to verse 20. Can you see this? By a new and living way which he hath consecrated for us, through the veil that is his flesh. Can you read that Greek word, enkenetzo?
No.
Enkenidzo. Okay, can you see it? It's consecrated. Now, look at this. This Greek word is used here, enkenetzo. This is important stuff. Okay, now, I'm going to give you the drive-by version, and then maybe next week I'm going to give you the whole thing. Okay? This is very, very important as a missing piece of theology to answer Desmond Ford and to answer your evangelical brothers that say that Jesus went into the most holy place and conducted a judgment in 31 AD when he went to heaven. Now watch what it says. So you see the enkenetzo there, right? Okay. Now let me get out of this and go to the New King James so that you can read it again. By a new and living way which he consecrated for us through the veil that is his flesh. So he went into the most holy place there through the veil. And then if you go to 6:19 and 20, this hope we have as an anchor of the soul, both sure and steadfast, which he enters the presence, where? Behind the veil, where the forerunner has entered for us, even Jesus, having become high priest forever, according to the Melchizedek. So therefore, you have two texts in Hebrews, 6:19 and 20 and 10:19 and 20, that says that Jesus went into the most holy place. And that is before 1844. That is when he went to heaven. Now what I want you to notice is when you go to Numbers chapter 7, I'm going to take you to Numbers chapter 7. And this word right here, dedication, in the Greek version of the Old Testament, no, what's going on here in Numbers 7?
Consecrating the temple.
This is Solomon's temple. Okay, this is the temple that, not Solomon's temple, this is the temple that's being dedicated. Okay? Yes. Remember that Greek word, enkenetzo, for consecrated, in the LXX, the Greek Old Testament, for consecrated, it's the exact same word. That is not talking about the Day of Atonement. This is talking about when the temple was dedicated. So all the articles were dedicated, and the holy place and the most holy place was dedicated. It was enkinetzoed. So therefore, this happens 4 times. In number 7, 7:1, he consecrated it. I think there's one in 11. Dedication. See it? You see my mouse? Dedication of the altar. That is the Greek word in the LXX, enkinetzo. It is not Hebrew, it is Greek, what I'm telling you. If you look this up in the Hebrew, it's going to say something different. But in the Greek Old Testament, it's enkinetzo. And this is really exciting because it answers the question to what Jesus did and where he went and why he went there when he went into the most holy place in Hebrews. He was enkinetzoing the most holy place, so that when the Day of Atonement rolled around in 1844, just like it did on the 10th day of the 7th month, they could use it since it had been enkanetzoed. And so there was one other day except the most holy place that, I don't know what's going on. What's the deal? There was one other day of the year that they went into the most holy place, and it was at the inaugural celebration of the sanctuary. So what was going on was, did we just lose our bulb, maybe? Okay, so there was one other day of the year that the high priest went into the most holy place, and it was at the inauguration of the temple, and that was it. All the other times after that, it was only the most holy place. And so what Jesus did when he went to heaven in 31 AD, when he went into the most holy place, he was enkanetzoing the most holy place, dedicating it, inaugurating it, consecrating it, so that just like on the 10th day of the 7th month, the high priest could enter into the most holy place, because it was enkanetzoed at the first ever service. You see it? And I got a person right now at Edenville who is reading and listening to Desmond Ford, and they're going to hear this. And this is important stuff. Yep, Jerry. Hold on.
It's interesting when you're talking about dedicating, because it has where you're pointing the child to. When you're dedicating it, you're pointing it to where he needs to be.
Right.
When you're dedicating all the things at the altar, it all has to point to Christ, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it wouldn't be like dedicating it to the Jews or to the priest. It has to point to somebody, and since that's what the most holy place and the holy place is, it points to Christ. It would only make sense to dedicating it.
Right. So in number 788, there's two in the 80s. And all the oxen and the sacrifice, the peace offerings were 24 bulls, the rams 60, male goats 60, and their lambs and their years 60. This was the dedication, the enkanetzo. If you were reading in the Greek, it's the Greek word enkanetzo for the altar after it was anointed. Yep.
Who is Desmond Ford?
Desmond Ford he's dead now. He died 3 years ago, I think. He was a seminary professor, and he taught that the investigative judgment was garbage. And it led to a major split in our church. This was the biggest theological crisis. This makes women's ordination seem like kids' work. Right. This was a big deal in the 80s. So how long have you been an Adventist? Yeah, so you're not going back far enough. So, yeah, Dave, you had your hand up.
I said it was before I came in, but I'd heard about it. But didn't he recant?
No.
I thought he did.
No. He's got YouTube videos right now on YouTube that you can go and watch, and it's a total waste of time, because this one concept destroys everything that he teaches. It's gone. Game over. Mic drop. That's it. And that's why, if you understood the magnitude of what Desmond Ford was teaching, you would be jumping in the pews right now, because this is built-in protection to that foolishness. Because they say, and your evangelical brothers and sisters say, that when Jesus went to heaven, that is when he conducted the judgment. And since he went into the most holy place, and the holy place is linked with the judgment, that's when he conducted a judgment in 31 AD, not in 1844. So therefore, the doctrine of the investigative judgment is garbage. Ellen White is a false prophet since she taught it. And our church is false because we teach it, if that's true. But you see that he enkanetioed. the sanctuary and the most holy place, just like they incarnated the temple when it was first made, dedicated, consecrated. Now watch. Look at, go, knowledge shall be increased. Very good. That's a very good point right there. Okay, so look at Hebrews 10 and verse 20 in the new American Standard Version. They add it right in there for you. This is why you got to look up different versions. Hebrews 10 verse 20. By a new and living way, which he what? Isn't that exciting? They put the Greek definition right in there, and that's why I'm telling you the NASB is the closest to the Greek and Hebrew there is. Yep.
So basically what you're saying, when he had Moses apply the blood to everything, and he applied it also to the priests, when, in other words, sanctified, inaugurated the whole thing for Israel. When he went back to heaven, he did it for the heavenly sanctuary with his blood.
That's it. That's it.
Well, it's also it couldn't.
That's what he did in 31.
I was going to say it also couldn't have been because the sin couldn't be taken for the Day of Atonement. It couldn't be taken out of the heavenly sanctuary because the sin hadn't been brought in there yet. Because Christ's blood, Christ was the sacrifice for it, that brought the blood in there.
Yep.
That had to be transferred out of the sanctuary.
Here, let's get a look at this word inaugurated. I don't speak Greek. I don't read Greek, and neither do you probably. So, look at Oh, you got to go to this here. He consecrated. So, it's EGK enezo. Let me get a good look at how that Greek word looks. It's like EYK, EY-kai. Okay, watch. Now, here's the Greek Old Testament. Go to, with me, Numbers. Let's go back to Numbers so you can see what this looks like. 7. You see it? That's the Greek Old Testament right there. Okay. We just saw one in 89, so hold on. And I'm going to go right back to Hebrews 10 with the King James. I'm going to get another look at that so you can see the two words, so you know what I'm saying is not crazy. EYK. Okay, I'm going to look for that. EYK. EYK. 7, and then go to 89. It's in there.
Asian ones do right backward.
I don't know. I can't find it. But it's the word incarnato. It's in there. Was it 88? Number 7. Go to New King James. Oh, it was 88, not 89. So that means 88. Towards the end. Okay. So now, go to the Greek Old Testament. Right there. There it is. That's it. Incarnazzo. There you have it. He dedicated it. There you go. This is it. That's it right there. There you have it. That's why it's good to know something about the original languages. Greek?
Yeah.
Greek's kind of a dead. Koine Greek is dead. No one uses. That's why it's better to know Hebrew, because you can go to Israel and read and speak and get around. But that's it. There you go. That's the one. Right where my mouse is. That's it. That's Incarnazzo for dedicated. And then if you go back to the NASB dedication, what's ESV? Dedication. What's NIV? Dedication. It's all in Incarnazzo. Yep.
Hold on. Sorry, Jan and the other secretary.
Do we actually have people watching at home? How many? Two? Okay.
So what was Desmond? What was his name?
Desmond Ford.
Ford. I was going to say Desmond Dawson. This didn't sound right. So what was his when he did the judgment then? Why was that so significant to him to cause a split?
Because the doctrine of the investigative judgment is it is something that only Seventh-day Adventists believe. No other church in the world teaches that on that topic. We're
And that would be the judgment started in 1844.
Yes, we're it. We're the only people that teach that. And so if the judgment began in 31 AD, then that has implications on our church. But what he did not understand is when Jesus went to heaven, he incarnazzoed it, just like the temple was incarnazzoed in number 7 when it was dedicated.
Well,
So he wasn't differentiating between the
That-
inauguration service.
That's because no one knew about it. That is a recent development in theology.
it seems like I've heard that before, though, somewhere. I don't know where.
When
That
I went to
he went to heaven, and that's when he consecrated the temple. That's when he went in there. And
But
he was
did you connect it
consecrated.
with number 7 though?
Oh, I'm sure I didn't, but
But that's like the Bible connection back to number 7.
right.
Okay? Right. There you go. Okay. So now back to our study. Is that like, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that comes along with this, but is that like clear in your minds? So if you ever hear anybody say that, now you have the answer for them. Okay. So blah 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 blah. We already know that. No, I think he was someone that Satan used to split our church. That's my opinion. He was a seminary professor, ordained minister. That was 1980s, and I think that happened in Australia. But it sent shockwaves throughout our whole church. I think so.
It goes all the way back to that book, The Questions on Doctrine. And his
1957.
teacher was someone who believed the evangelical beliefs, who taught him, and so he just followed right along. We had a lot of problems in the 50s because of that book.
So he taught. No, I
Look at who taught him. I've read the book. I have the information. I can't remember, but his
Questions on
teacher,
Doctrine was a good book. That book in itself was a good book. It clarified a lot of things. I've read that book. That's a very good book.
I can't agree with you. I'm sorry.
Anyway. Okay. So questions on doctrine. Why did they write questions on doctrine? What happened? Walter Martin and Donald Barnhouse. That's it. Okay, it's coming back to me. They did some research when they were writing their book, The Kingdom of the Cults. And they wrote an article in Evangelical World magazine, and they officially removed Seventh-day Adventists from the Kingdom of the Cults. No, we really didn't adjust. We just clarified what we believed for Martin and Barnhouse. There was no adjustment. See,
His teacher was taught what the change that came about from that. And that's why we still have problems. That's why we have traditional Adventists and evangelical Adventists today. It has to do with what you believe.
have you read Questions on Doctrine? Have you read the book?
I don't understand all of it, but from what I have been told and what I've studied,
Mm-hmm. That book is fabulous. I love that book because it clarifies the evangelical misunderstandings of what Seventh-day Adventist believes. That's a very good book, and it's a good tool. There's some awesome work in that book on the day per year principle, because Ford teaches that the day per year principle is garbage, and that Antiochus Epiphanes is the little horn, not the Catholic Church. What's that?
that is what the
And its called are repeated back in the past. And so everything, and Nero is the little horn. There's like two versions of preterism. Nero is the little horn, and Antiochus Epiphanes, which is, does anybody know who Antiochus Epiphanes is? Does anybody know anything about him? He is a king. You know how in Greece, and it's separated into 4 different divisions, hence the 4 heads, Cassander, Lysimachus, Ptolemy, and Seleucus. He is a king from Seleucus. He is a Seleucid king, and there was this story where he was going to go fight in Egypt, and somebody, an opposing king, told him that he needed to make a decision which way he was going to go. He was going to fight this way or he was going to fight that way. And he says, I'll get back to you. And the guy took out a stick and he drew a circle around Antiochus Epiphanes, and he said, I'll have your answer before you leave this circle. And he says, okay, I'm not going to go down there. And then if you read in Daniel chapter 8, it says the ram was great, the male goat was very great, and the little horn was exceeding great. And everyone who says that the little horn is Antiochus Epiphanes, I say, what was his dog's name? Can you tell me anything that he said? What was his wife's name? How many wars did he fight? Can you tell me literally anything about him?
No.
Exceeding great? How can he be exceeding great? No one knows anything about. But tell me about the Roman Catholic Church.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know things about the Roman Catholic Church? Do they exist today? Exceeding great. Antiochus Epiphanes, no one knows anything about him. Not exceeding great. And if they make the 2,300 days, there's like 600 or something days missing to make it when they sacrificed that pig in a temple, and that was the abomination which causes desecration and everything. There's just no way that he can fit, because the little horn came out of the 10 horns of Europe, not out of Greece. And that's the big reason.
Right there.
That's the big reason why you know that he can't be, because the little horn came up among the 10 of modern day Europe, and Antiochus Epiphanes came from one of the 4 heads on the third beast in Daniel chapter 7. That's the big reason. It doesn't match. So just like the rapture theory, you're like doing gymnastics around a whole bunch of things. In preterism, you're doing gymnastics around a whole bunch of things, so it doesn't match up. There's like 10 reasons or more why it can't be true. So anyway, I got all that stuff in my notes on my computer when I took sanctuary, and it's not even, see, futurism is not biblical scholarship. However, preterism is. At least you can go read preterism in big theological libraries. Futurism and the rapture, it's not even scholarly work. It's a theory. It's laughable. Preterism, on the other hand, is more solid. It ain't true, but it's more, there's more theological work done on it. But yeah. Anyway. Okay. So William Miller taught that the earth would be cleansed by fire on October 22nd, 1844. Right? Obviously, we're still here, and the sanctuary was not the earth. And what happened? The next day, do you guys know the story? What's the story?
I don't. Was it not Haskell?
O.R. Crozier and Hiram Edson.
Yeah, Hiram Edson. They were going through a cornfield.
Why were they going through a cornfield?
Comfort some of the other believers that
they were avoiding all the people.
Well, yeah, but they were going. Yeah, that way they were going through in the middle of the cornfield. He looked up, and then the Lord revealed to him that it was the heavenly saints. Well, that's the way I saw it, but that's where he got. That's where they got the idea to study.
Right.
Because to see what it was.
Hiram and Crozier were walking. Crozier kept going. Hiram just kind of stopped, and he was looking up into the sky, and he was in vision. Mm-hmm. Okay? Whether it's a vision like a prophet has, I don't know. But he saw Jesus from the holy to the most holy. And he's like, that's it. It's the sanctuary in heaven that was being cleansed. Just like on the earthly sanctuary on the Day of Atonement. Right? And so they began to study, and then Ellen White was caught off into vision, and God confirmed what they studied through her. So she did not initiate 1844, she confirmed it. Her work and the role of our formation of our doctrine is not confirmation. It's not initiation, it's confirmation. The only thing that she initiated by her visions was the health message about taking baths and things like that, because do you guys know what was going on in the sanitariums? The doctors would go from woman to woman to woman and give birth and not even wash their hands. Yeah, and the babies were dying because the electron microscope hadn't even been discovered yet, and they didn't know about bacteria. Right. Do you guys know the phrase, you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater? Do you know where that comes from? They had in their homes, they had a basin, a wash basin. The father would go first, the oldest son or daughter would go second, down to the last kid with the baby. And by the time the baby would take a bath, in that water, it was brown and dirty. And so that's where that phrase comes from, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Because the bathwater was bad, and you'd throw the baby out too with it, because you'd still, right. That's where that comes from. You should have started with the father and then got rid of the water and filled it back up again. Anyway, so that's what was going on. So the very next day, October 23, is when that happened. Okay. So I'm going to skip this. And then in verse 8, Revelation 10, verse 8, go back to Revelation 10 and verse 8. I want to get out of the NIV. Let's go to a better Bible. Okay. So then the voice which I heard from heaven spoke to me again, and said, go take the little book which is open in the hand of the angel that stands on the sea and the earth. So I went to the angel, and he said, give me the little book. And he said, take and eat it. It will make your stomach bitter, but it will be as sweet as honey in your mouth. Okay? So when he took the book and he started to eat it, the process of eating it is studying it. It's trying to understand and dive into it. And then when it went into his stomach, it was sweet as honey in his mouth, but then it became bitter in his stomach. Now that's taken from, I think, Jeremiah when he ate or Ezekiel, when he ate a flying scroll and he put it in his mouth and it became bitter. So that's from the Old Testament. But we understand that when he took and ate it, it was sweet as honey in your mouth. They started to study. They thought Jesus was coming back, and then they began to teach that Jesus was coming on October 22nd, 1844. They made some revisions. It was in 1833, then they switched it, and then they went to October 22nd, 1844. And I think there was a couple other dates besides that, but they settled on October 22nd, 1844. And then I took the little book out of the angel's hand, ate it, and it was as sweet as honey in my mouth, but when I had eaten it, my stomach became bitter. So in other words, when Jesus didn't come, they were bitterly disappointed. Okay? And then after they studied and they understood what they were teaching, it was the right date, but the wrong event. And then Ellen White was confirmed that Jesus moved into the second phase of his ministry in the most holy place. They were all excited. And then the Lord said, "You must prophesy again about many peoples, nations, tongues, and kings." And if you remember that phrase, many peoples, nations, tongues, and kings, where else do we see that phrase? To every nation, tribe, tongue, and people. Make sense? So that phrase, every nation, tongues, and tribe, and kindred, and people, that's in the first angel's message. And how far did the first angel's message go? To those who dwell on the earth, to every nation, tribe, tongue, and people. It's the same concept. So that means that this message about we're living in the judgment hour was to go to the whole world, and it did. And it's going now through God's people, through the three angels' messages. So, back to chapter 10. So, that is what we understand is our prophetic roots in Revelation chapter 10. And then those little group of people that kept studying and up in barns all night, and that eventually grew into when they voted a church name, and the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists was officially formed May 21st, 1863. That was the group of people. There was three groups of people that came out of the disappointment of 1844. The Albany movement, the spiritualizers, and then the group that stayed in around Battle Creek, and then they kept on growing and growing and growing into a whole worldwide church. Yep.
Wasn't there something like only 50 or maybe even less than that?
There was not that many.
There wasn't that many.
The big three is James White, Ellen Harmon, and Joseph Bates. That's your big three. We started with three. And Joseph Bates was a sea captain. Ellen Harmon was kicked out of her church for believing in the second coming. And James White was also, he was in something called the Christian Connection. He was a Christian Connection pastor. And James and Ellen White married because they were so interested in the movement of the gospel that they traveled so much that it seemed appearance of evil that they were traveling and being together so much, and so therefore they got married. William Miller never accepted the Sabbath. William Miller just kind of like, his home is in, I think, Lowhampton, New York. You can go to his house. Like my teacher of my professor of Adventist Doctrine of Development, he had rocks. He has rocks in his study from William Miller's farm. Like he built a wall out of rocks, and he took one of the rocks and he put it in his farm. At the White Estate, underneath, okay, there's two White Estates. There's two Ellen White vaults where they have original stuff. It's at Andrews University in the basement, and then in Baltimore, Maryland, Silver Springs at the GC. We have a whole bunch of stuff. We have William Miller's, I held in my hand, William Miller's pocket watch. Like, if I can go to, I'll show you guys this stuff if you want to stay for like 5 more minutes. iCloud. Oh, 12-707. Time to buy a new projector. Let me go and find out. How do I go to all those photos? Stop it. Where's Dan at? Anyway. You remember that? Huh? Yeah, we made him cry. That was great. All right. This is all I got for my graduation right here. On TV. That was it. That's how I graduated on TV, because of COVID. They canceled our graduation. Oh, there it is. Okay, let me start from the beginning. Okay, that's Jay and Andrew's library. Those are original books. That's his actual library. Okay? And I don't know. I forget exactly what that was right there. I think this was William Miller's Bible. The very Bible that he used. And that's William Miller's stopwatch. Yeah, clock. Yeah. That was his pocket watch. That's what I meant. And then there's a concordance. And then that is a Sabbath tract that Joseph Bates wrote. One of the original ones. And this is the handwriting. This is the original letter of Ellen White. That's the real page that she wrote on. That's ink that she wrote. If you can read it. Dear, it's a letter to Willie. Dear Willie, I received your letter, blah, blah, blah. So here's more. You want to? I must bear this testimony, blah, blah, blah. Just shut up in my bowels. She was quoting Jeremiah. There it is. Yep. No, this is Andrew's. And this is, I think this is Ellen White's own copy, her self copy of Desire of Ages. That's her. This is actually her book that she read of her own writing.
That was seemed just a little odd, reading my own writing.
Yeah, but as a prophet, she didn't remember everything she wrote,
That's true. That's true.
like Daniel. And
Yeah.
I don't know if this is Jan Andrews' library, because her library's coming up. Okay, this is a representation, a replica of every single book that Ellen White had in her library. That is her whole library.
Wow.
Right there. That is a direct representation of Ellen White's library. Of all, yeah, I saw it. Uh-huh. It's actually somewhere over here on this side. And that guy right in the middle, that's Merlin Burt. I don't know if you guys remember the sermon that I had you all watch when I was sick. He's the director of the White Estate right now. And at the time, he was my professor of Adventist Doctrine of Development. Yeah, that's the guy all the way on the right. That's Jaron Schmidt. He's my district supervisor. He was actually in my class at Mission College. And then Jorge Diaz apostatized and went to Louisiana to be a pastor from no, he didn't apostatize. We just poke him because he left Michigan and he went to Louisiana. And then where the arrow is, that's Cody Francis. Jaron is,
Lansing. I mean, not, yeah, Lansing.
I don't even know where his churches are. I forget.
Lansing and St. Charles.
I'm so caught up in my world. I don't.
Or no, Saginaw. Saginaw and St. Charles.
That sounds right.
Saginaw.
St. Charles is right. He's a good preacher. He's a good dude. I like him a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, the far right.
That's Chan's son. Anyway, I always got a picture with. See, that's him right there. I don't know his name anymore. That was 4 years ago, and
Yeah.
this was 2 years ago, January 15, 2020. So this was my very last class. I don't know. You can call the James White Library and we can, yeah, we should do that when the weather turns nice. So I told Edenville that we're switching to, we're having the first and second week where I'm preaching in both churches, and I will be at Edenville on the third the whole time, and Clare the whole time. And I said, I'm not really taking a vote on this. This is information. This is what I'm doing. So, and they said, okay. They liked it. No one had a problem with it. Everybody likes it. So we're starting that in January. So that means that you guys will be responsible for the third week, the pulpit for the third week. Okay? What did Carla say? Whatever she said. Whatever she said. I don't know. What does that mean? Whatever. I just got to be able to leave at 11 and go to Edenville. That's a Friday? Yeah, Christmas is on Sunday this year. Christmas is on Sunday, so Eve would be on Sabbath, so that is the service. That's not the fifth Sabbath, is it? I'm excited. I think I'm preaching at my previous church on the fifth Sabbath in December. So I think I'm going back to Troy to preach, and everyone's going to be all excited. It'll be great. So, fifth Sabbath, everybody's got it covered. Okay, who would like to close with prayer? Okay, Jerry, go ahead.